everyone. Welcome to this virtual space. We are so excited that you are here. I know it's 6 p.m. Pacific time, so we do appreciate you wanting to learn more about our college. We are the College of Environmental Design, known as CED. So my name is Mel Barbers. I'm an undergraduate advisor and wellness coordinator here in the college. The faces that you see on your screen are our wonderful CED admissions ambassadors. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to one of our coordinators, Taint, to kick us off with introductions.
Hi, my name is Taint. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm the training coordinator for CED admissions ambassadors, and I'm a third year studying architecture. And I'll pass it on to Riwa.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Riwa. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a third year majoring in sustainable design and environmental economics, and I'll pass it on to Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm also one of the communications coordinators for the CED ambassadors this year, and I'm studying urban studies, and I'm a third year. I'll pass it on back to Mel.
Wonderful. Yes, so our wonderful coordinators, the other spaces are other ambassadors that you can hear from later on after our presentation. But I'll pass it to Taint to go ahead and get us started off on the presentation where we will be going over the majors, some services that the College of Environmental Design has to offer you. I know probably at this moment as you're kind of reviewing and exploring colleges, if you're interested in one of ours, we do welcome you to connect with us outside of this space. And we have our contact information that will be towards the end of the slide. So go ahead and kick us off, Ting.
Okay, yeah, so welcome to the College of Environmental Design. In these slides, we'll be going over some information about our majors, but also about our college. So first, let's talk about the objectives. And at the heart of our program is the goal to critically analyze the built environment, which means understanding how our cities, buildings, and landscapes are constructed and how they function. So the program also focuses on crafting environments that are ecologically sustainable, resilient, and prosperous. Now, these aren't just buzzwords. We're aiming to create spaces that are fair, healthy, and beautiful for all. Moving on to the focus areas, the college emphasizes design thinking, which is a creative, user-centered approach to solving problems, and just as important is problem defining, where we carefully assess the real issues before jumping into the solutions. And together, these skills ensure that we're building not only better spaces, but also addressing the most pressing needs of our communities. This is the CED undergraduate student population at UC Berkeley, and CED makes up 2% of the entire UC Berkeley student population. So this is a very small number, and being in a smaller college provides students with the resources of a large research institution such as Berkeley with the feel and attention of a small college. So this means that it's easy to form relationships with colleagues, professors, and faculty as we're able to form a tight-knit community where we can find familiar faces every day and form closer relationships with people within our majors. We also have great accessibility to resources due to this aspect, which we'll expand on in later slides. So CED encompasses 4 majors, with architecture being the largest at 57%, then urban studies at 16%, then sustainable environmental design at 14%, and lastly, landscape architecture making up 13%. So as we mentioned previously, our largest major in the college is architecture. Normally, we associate architecture with buildings, and though that's true, there are several definitions to architecture. And architecture is essentially an expression of values, and the way we build is a reflection of the way we live. So in this stance, the program at CED offers a broad introduction to the fields of architecture, from conceptualization, design and representation, craft and construction, and observing how these buildings perform in the real world. On this slide is 2 pictures of projects worked on by Lisa Iwamoto Architecture, which is the firm of the chair of the architecture department at CED. So the top picture is a Chengdu Pavilion, while the bottom picture is an ADU unit designed by our firm. And the reason why we chose to include these images is because we wanted to emphasize the great faculty we have here at CED. Most faculty in the college have practices outside of the classroom, and from my time in CED, I found these very helpful points of connections that will prepare me for my future architectural career. And this is the architecture course plan. So we are a 4-year program, which takes a more conceptual approach to architecture. In your first year, architecture students will be required to take the Intro to Environmental Design classes, as well as fulfilling their general education requirements. And architecture students are required to take physics and math. And in your second year, architecture students will be introduced to lower division studio courses, which will introduce them to software such as Rhino, Photoshop, AutoCAD, and hand drafting skills. So studio life includes pinups, critiques, and reviews that allow students to improve on their personal and professional development while in the class. Beginning in your third year, students will be taking their upper division studio classes, which builds on what was previously taught in the previous years. They'll also be taking more architecture-related classes, learning about the history of architecture and observing the social life of buildings. These classes will also be taken in conjunction with upper division non-major classes in CED. And having this requirement ensures that all majors in CED remains very interdisciplinary, and this allows students to explore courses or options outside of architecture that may lead to other interests. For example, taking a city planning class at CED got me interested in minoring in city planning, which was something I never considered before coming to Berkeley. So finally, in your third year, students will have the option to choose between a research or studio track, which we'll explain more in depth in a later slide. And along with that, students will also continue to fulfill their upper division non-major requirements as well as architecture requirements. So this is the upper division studio course that students will be taking in their third year, which is an introduction to the fundamentals of architectural design. So this class is essentially building upon knowledge previously gained in the lower division studio course. And in these classes, students will be taught by instructors who have practices outside of the classroom. And this is just a great way for students to gain a mentor as well as learn firsthand what architectural practice is like in the real world. An example of a project I'm working on at the moment is using the faculty glade, which is a hilly grass area on campus. And we're working to design a building on top of that in consideration of program, topography, and the surrounding context. So generally, these studio courses build on concepts of form and space with an emphasis on issues of site, program, and structure. And it's also meant to prepare students to more advanced problems related to architectural design in future studio classes, such as materials, construction, and the use of context. And the studio class is also going to be taken in conjunction with ARC 140, which is Energy and Environment, and ARC 160, which is the Intro to Construction classes that introduces students to topics of performance structure and code compliances that can be used in these projects. ARC 100C and 100D is the studio track that students may follow in their fourth year. And here students work on individual and group design projects that build on topics from previous studio classes with additional integration of conditions related to architectural production. And these include landscape and urban issues, context, performance, and structure in the design of buildings. And the studio track allows students to really maximize their technical skills that are required to succeed in studio, as well as in the real world. And in these classes, students will continue to advance their skill set in digital and physical model making, 3D drawings and renderings, as well as 2D orthographic diagramming. And these are some pictures found on the CED website of previous projects that students have done for these studio classes. And finally, we have the research track, which is also an option for students who look forward to staying within academia or those who enjoy research with an emphasis on collaborative work. So this is a route that students may take in their 4th year. And the topics in this slide here are some past topics that students have chosen to explore, but you are welcome to explore a number of range of topics that, as long as it's within the area of faculty expertise. And these include like architectural history and theory, structures, building performance, energy and environment, or social factors and human behavior in architecture and the environment. So this track allows for a very in-depth individual study over the course of a year, which includes personalized research and design projects that is supplemented by anything from traditional design work, including drawings, models, and renderings, or research, experimentation, and more. And the great thing about the research track is that it's usually within a smaller cohort of students, which allows them to make that one-on-one connection with their instructor and allows them to get personal help when needed, and also form closer relationships with the faculty and also their fellow peers that you can only get at CED.
Thank you, Tate. Now we're going to be going over landscape architecture, which many students might think of as everything that's happening outside of buildings. So this image here is actually Center Street, which is downtown of Berkeley, and it's a landscape architecture plan which was proposed in 2009 by Walter Hood, in which he is an amazing faculty member and a department chair for landscape architecture and environmental planning at CED. So landscape architecture encompasses a wide range of environments. So that's including parks, plazas, playgrounds, beaches, and many more. And it involves the design and planning of those spaces for both usability and aesthetics. So not only is landscape architecture focusing on the physical elements of the public realm, such as plants or trees, but it's also focusing on how people interact with those spaces and environments. So here's a sample course plan. Students in their first year will be taking their Introduction to Environmental Design courses, as well as their general education, we call them breadth courses, and also their lower division requirements, which are physical and biological science requirements. Then as they move on to their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th years, they'll be taking their both lower division studios and upper division studios, as well as taking classes outside of landscape architecture within CED courses. So that can be courses in city planning, courses in architecture, and courses in environmental design that will help to kind of re-emphasize that interdisciplinary education. Landscape Architecture 103 is one of the undergraduate upper division studio courses called Energy, Fantasy, and Form. This undergraduate studio course mainly focuses on climate modification and energy conservation. This image, the 3 images here, are actually student work, and it's kind of focusing on how by using historical research and a combination of spiritual ideas, how you can use those ideas for both climate modification, energy conservation, and creating a new green design out of that. Another major we have is Urban Studies major, and this image here is actually a land use study in Mukuru, which is an informal settlement in Nairobi, Kenya. And it was developed by or researched by the Institute of Urban and Regional Development, which is an interdisciplinary research hub at CED. The Urban Studies undergraduate program focuses on ways to provide a more humane, equitable, and efficient settlement to promote both better urban features. And it is an interdisciplinary major, and it really focuses on how to analyze how cities have kind of developed and changed over time by touching on various topics such as transportation, social justice, economics, housing, community, and much more. Here's a sample Urban Studies course plan. So students in their first year will be taking their Intro to Environmental Design courses, as well as General Education or breadth courses. And then as you move on to your 2nd year, you will continue to take your general education courses, as well as lower division requirements in economics or statistics, as well as lower division major electives. Then as you move on to your third year, you will be taking Environmental Design 100 or City Planning 110, which is more focused on introduction to city planning, as well as major electives that can come in classes that are concentrated on transportation, community health, and much more, as well as taking on your capstone experience project in your fourth year. So the capstone experience project mainly serves as a way to kind of bring together everything that a student has been learning throughout their studies, and it kind of allows them to apply that knowledge to a real world project or an issue. So one way that students can fulfill this capstone experience is through a thesis project. A thesis project mainly identifies a question on a topic that relates to the student's interests and allows them to do a little bit more in-depth research. And this is recommended for students that are interested in pursuing higher education or further education in academia. There's also Planning Studio, in which it's a city planning project on a real local site, usually in groups supervised by a professor. So I fulfilled my capstone experience through this planning studio, and it was really fun because my class only had 12 students, which allows that professor and student connection, and we were able to survey local high school students and talk to small businesses and do like field works and field site research very locally. Another way you could fulfill capstone experience is through a research studio, and this is when students produce their own research from start to finish. So instructors will work with students and lecturers will introduce a range of research skills necessary to complete a research project on their own. And lastly, urban studies capstone experience can also be fulfilled with a fieldwork experience, and this can come in forms of internships or volunteer work that's relating to urban studies.
Thank you for that, Hannah. Moving on, our last major in our college is Sustainable Environmental Design, which is also our largest growing major. So the image you can see over here is an image of a green roof, which is one of the most popular sustainable designs that people have been using in recent terms to deal with sustainability. So what this major is essentially emphasizing tackling key environmental issues in cities and ecosystems worldwide. So this program combines technical skills along with an understanding of social and cultural factors, encouraging students to think creatively about applying sustainability to complex problems at various scales, and also reimagining traditional approaches to sustainability. An advantage of both this major is that we're a very small cohort, so you have a lot of connections with your professors, especially in a huge college like UC Berkeley. Moving on, this is our course plan. So just like every other major in the college, you have your introduction to environmental design, and this is a great opportunity to meet students within your college who are in other majors. In terms of lower division requirements, you do have to take math, physics, economics, and statistics, so a little bit more compared to the other majors. And moving on, you have your upper division sustainable design core courses in issues of equity and social justice. And you also have your upper division non-major courses, which are from other department. In my opinion, sustainable design is the most interdisciplinary major because you do have to take a lot of classes from the landscape architecture department, from the architecture department, and from the environmental design department, with classes ranging from geographic information science to energy and environment to climate change, adaptation, and resilience. So it is a very interdisciplinary approach to think about it. And in your fourth year, you just continue taking your upper division core courses in sustainable urban technologies. And also you do finish the non-major courses. And your senior year final semester, you have a capstone project, which is an integration and application of all the methods of sustainability that you've learned throughout your time here. So next, talking about the minors, these are some of the minors that our college offers, from city planning to geospatial information science, sustainable design, history of the built environment. So I'm personally minoring in city planning because I feel like sustainable design and city planning are very complementary and there's a lot of overlap. And learning about city planning helps me have a different approach to sustainable design. But as a UC Berkeley student, you're also free to minor outside of our college. So these are some of the minors that students have done in the past: energy engineering, global poverty and practice, and disability studies. One thing that's important to note that urban studies is essentially city planning. So if you're majoring in urban studies, you cannot minor in city planning, or if you're majoring in sustainable environmental design, you cannot minor in sustainable design. Next, talking about the resources that our college offers. We offer several resources for our students. First being the fabrication shop and the digital fabrication lab. So the fabrication shop is there for woodworking and construction of physical objects, while the digital fabrication lab gives students access to laser and 3D printing. And there are staff appointed during work hours to help students through every step of the process, meaning most students come in with actually no prior experience. Next, moving on to the Berkeley Engagement Center. This is a career center. So if you ever need help about internships or your career, ever need guidance, this is the place to go to. Our environmental design library, it's actually the largest environmental design library, the west of the Mississippi. And we have a lot of resources here from different departments: city planning, landscape architecture. So if you ever have a research paper to write or any project which you need more information about outside of the internet, this is the place to go to. And within the fabrication shop, we also have a material store where students usually buy materials for a cheaper price than offered outside of the college. And lastly, our environmental design archives. Since the environmental design library usually has books and more material for like research papers, this is more project based, and the archives has a lot of map so students can kind of spatially analyze whatever they're working on. These are some of the prizes and awards offered by our college. So these are just examples of scholarships offered to landscape architecture students. And this is an undergraduate traveling scholarship. But these are some additional opportunities listed over here. And not all of these opportunities or scholarships are purely based on academics. And each scholarship has its own topic that it's catered towards. So that is a scholarship offered for everyone, no matter what you're interested in, especially for students who want to study abroad or travel abroad over the summer for an internship or to take classes and might have a difficulty. I would say don't worry about that because there are a lot of scholarships and opportunities offered by our college. These are some career opportunities or famous pathways that usually students of our college take. So architecture, city and regional planning, transportation, as you can see, UI, UX design, law school, construction management. So this just shows that like your future career or your pathway isn't purely defined by your major, and it depends on what your actual true interest is in. So these are just some opportunities that students have taken, but again, you're free to explore whatever you're interested in. Talking about finding your community at UC Berkeley or college, we have clubs from different organizations, different sectors: culture, arts, politics, public services, a lot of Greek life. So there are several student-run organizations on campus. So I'm sure that's a place for you no matter what you're interested in. And within CED, these are some of the clubs that we offer. So our undergraduate student council, Berkeley Urban Studies Student Association, we have SEED. So every major essentially has its own organization. And there's also the CED admissions ambassadors, which is what we are. Undergraduate advising, these are our fall advising hours from Monday to Friday, 12 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So feel free to schedule an advising appointment. You don't have to be a student of the college. If you have any questions about either your application process or the college, or you want to get to know the college a little better, feel free to like drop in. These are amazing advisors for different majors, and also Mel, our wellness coordinator, because your overall well-being is a super important part of our college. These are other upcoming events. We have in that link, which I will drop in the chat in a second. But we have building tours, we have other information sessions coming up as well. If you want to schedule a one-on-one Zoom call with one of our ambassadors to learn more about student experience, please feel free to email us at cedambassadors@berkeley.edu, or if you want to schedule an in-person building tour at any time of your convenience, please feel free to email us and we'll be happy to set that up for you.